I see a spider. And there's a spider on my softbox. And now we're gonna have a really stressful video. It's actually a very large spider. This has been one of the most requested FX3 rig build videos actually ever. Now, you guys are familiar with Caleb Pike, DSLR video shooter, and he's been doing this for years, showing us different accessories and different ways to rig out your camera. In today's video, I'm actually going to use his Cineback for the Sony FX3. Now, this is going to be the top handle version. I've used other configurations before, but this is what it's going to look like for me when I want to turn it up to the max. I've shot a couple of projects using this particular build with the FX3 and some of the lenses and other gear, and I want to share with you guys how I rigged this guy up and actually giving a rating for the Cineback, some pros and cons, especially if you need a solution for your FX3 to make it a little bit bigger, beefier, and give it a little bit more options. But no, we'll get there. Now, stripped down to the camera body and the cage, Cineback only actually fits on a couple of different brands of cages. Typically, it's going to be a tilted cage or a smaller cage, and you could use a riser plate, but I've actually been able to use a Condor Blue cage pretty comfortably. Now, the top handle version of the Cineback doesn't actually have that plate that would make it a little bit more difficult to put on different cages. Having something like the Condor Blue cage is great because I do have that cold shoe I could put accessories on the top. It's sturdy, and also it's just a cage that I already have. This is actually really easy to fit into the Cineback, so I could start mounting on other accessories, as well as you also have an extension plate that connects that top handle to the Cineback itself, and as well as a NATO rail top plate that actually joins those two pieces together. That's going to be a little bit important for later because we do have to mount on some accessories in order to get it on that top handle. Installing this is also pretty easy to do. You just have to line up the screws at the bottom of the plate, put your top handle on, and then also put on those top handle accessories. And then pretty much you're about 60% of the way done. Sort of. Okay, so normally I save this part for a little bit later in the video, but I want to talk about the lens I'm going to put on the front of the FX3. Now, I have been using the DZO Arliss primes for the last little bit, and I absolutely love these lenses. They're a little bit of a step up from the Baseplate primes of old, but these guys are a bit of a thicker lens. They're about 3.3 pounds, which means we're going to need a little bit of lens support, but it does stop down to a T1.4. Now, in order to get these guys on the FX3, because it doesn't necessarily have a native E-mount, I also need to use an E to a PL adapter that I got on Amazon, which I'll put in a close-up or leave in the description down below. All of the things in this video are in the description down below. But essentially with putting these guys on, this gives me the ability to put some really high quality glass on a sensor that's a little bit older, but still just fine. But being able to pair a good sensor with good glass is a great way to get a great image without having to spend even more money on getting the newest camera body. Also, because we don't have built-in NDs on the Sony FX3, we are going to be using our Nisi C5 matte box. This also has the ability to have 2 filters in there, especially if you want to put ND filters on there. Sometimes I put my 1 to 4 stop 4x4 that's going to be at the top, and also I might pair it with a little bit of mist. I'm actually using one of the mist filters that are 4x5 from Polar Pro. This is actually kind of nice because they hadn't made 4x5 filters beforehand. This is also really nice to get a little bit of a look if you want to use some of that mist, but also because there's no built-in NDs, if you're shooting outside, you're going to need one of these anyways because this has a 95mm diameter. If you guys want to hear more about the DZO Arliss primes, I'm going to leave a link down in the description down below because I did do a review on them, so you should go and check that out. Speaking of getting my rods and some lens support on there, I'm going to need to start off with a base plate. Now, I am using another Condor Blue base plate. This actually fits on the bottom of the Cineback. I put in a little 1/4-20 thread to 5/8 adapter right at the bottom here, so I could actually fit in 2 of these guys on the bottom, and I could have 2 mounting points to add for a little bit of extra security. Now, the only downside about this type of base plate is that once you take this guy off, it's not the best balance in the world. You're going to need the other half of this guy, which is going to be able to secure your rods, but at the end of the day, you'll have a base plate in a rod solution, as well as the ability to add the Condor Blue dovetail, which is also going to be nice, especially when you want to mount on and off a tripod, which I use quite a bit. Now I'm going to mix lens support and focus in the same category. Now you do have to do one of these before the other, but I am going to be using a Focus Pro motor from DJI that actually comes with a Focus Pro kit. Now fortunately and unfortunately, I could put the Focus Pro handle on the side of my rig. The unfortunate part is I haven't figured out a way to put the LiDAR rangefinder in there, but that's not the worst thing in the world because I could still connect this Focus Pro motor to the handle directly via USB-C. That way, if I do want to control some of those focus movements, I could use that side handle, and as well as it doubles just back as a really good side handle as well. This rig is going to get a little bit heavy, and just trying to use that side grip on the FX3 might not cut it. So using something like this Focus Pro handle right over here, put it on your right side if you're right-handed or left if you're left-handed. By using the NATO rails on the cage itself is a great way to be able to not only get a handle, but also you can control your focus too. If you guys have any ideas how to get the Focus Pro motor on this rig once it's done, leave a comment down below, because I haven't figured it out yet. Now, monitoring and wireless transmission go hand in hand, and for my monitor of choice, I'm actually going to be using the Portkeys BMW-R version 3. Now, this is great because you do get camera control, and also it's just a decently bright monitor, and you'll get HDMI and SDI in and out. Now, that's actually going to work really well with my DJI transmission system. Now, this I'm going to be using the SDR version. If I'm not going to be using some of the pro setups in terms of the high bright monitor and some of the other stuff that you would get from the old DJI wireless system, this actually works more than just fine as a wireless transmission system. Now, I've actually already covered this guy in a previous video, but these are a great way to actually use if you're client monitoring, or when you don't necessarily have super fast moving objects and you want to pull focus from it. Although the latency isn't the fastest in the world, but if you don't have Teradek money and I don't have Teradek money, well, this is going to be your next best thing. So remember when I was talking about the NATO rail that's going to be on the top handle plate on the Cineback? Well, you actually can use this NATO rail to 1/4-20 thread in order to mount on your monitor. This makes things a little bit more compact and keeps everything centered in. Usually I'll use magic arms to put a monitor on there, but if I don't necessarily have to do that, I probably won't, because sometimes they're a little bit more cumbersome and sometimes they get loose and you break your monitor. Rest in peace, some of the other monitors I've used. Now, what's nice about the SDR transmission system is it does come with these little 1/4-20 mounting things. I actually don't really know what to call these guys, but it makes it easy to actually mount this on something like a cage or another system with 1/4-20 mounting points, which the Cineback FX3 rig has all over the place. Now, you can place this wherever you'd like, as they are all over this rig, but you want to make sure it also doesn't get in the way of your top handle if you want to shoot in handheld. I usually put mine off onto the side, which makes it a little bit easier to get my fingers around the top handle still, while also having wireless transmission. What's also nice is this guy also charges via USB-C. So I could plug this into my battery when we talk about the power section of things, and that's going to be able to run a power off this guy without needing an MPF battery, which honestly just makes the rig big and bulky and just kind of annoying to use. Now, the reason why I wanted to get the top handle version of the Cineback for the FX3 is obviously to use that top handle, which is the key source to getting great audio. Now, my audio solution hasn't really changed. It's mixed up a little bit and just gotten a little bit smaller. We're still using the MKE600 by Sennheiser. I trust them as a brand all around, and you are still going to need those little rubber stoppers that are going to be on this guy, although they're in my bag, so I'm just going to put this on for show. But you do need to get these guys on Amazon if you want your microphone to fit in the holder on the FX3 top handle. Also, because it's an XLR connection, it's going to be great if you have longer cables for interview setups, or if you want to just use some nice robust cables in order to go into the 2 ports that are on the top handle. Now, the one thing that I have changed up in terms of my lav mic audio is actually going to be the DJI Lav Mic 2. Now, I've used my Sennheiser G4 lavs. Unfortunately, it might not fit on this particular rig, which might make things a little bit more complicated. However, using one of these guys, I could do this in a variety of different ways. Now, I do have the 3.5 to 3.5 millimeter jack, which most people don't know that you could still fit in the top handle on the FX3. It's just in a little hidden compartment, and there's a 3.5 millimeter jack there. Now, that is going to be input number 3, and if you check the controls on your top handle, you have a choice of using channel 1, 1 and 2, and just 3 on its own. So being able to use 1 and 3, a little bit difficult. You could also use a 3.5 to an XLR adapter with this guy, plug this guy in, and then plug it into that other XLR port if you need to use both at the same time. But we all know about the DJI Lav mics. You can record in 32-bit float on the lavaliers themselves. So I could use this to check my levels and have it as a backup, or I could use a super affordable XLR adapter, and I could just use these two at the same time. Now, the last component of this rig build is going to be how we're going to power everything. There's monitors, wireless transmitters, a Focus Pro, motors, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including the camera itself. It needs to get some power from somewhere. Now, following the trend of a Caleb Pike inspired rig, I'm actually going to use the brand new VB212 from Small Rig, which is also a collaboration with Caleb Pike. This is actually one of the best batteries I think you can get. It's relatively affordable based on its size and its capacity, might not be safe for flying. However, you're going to to be able to charge more than enough accessories on the Cineback, as it does have a V-mount plate and a D-tap splitter on the side, so you could put up to 4 D-tap inputs into the Cineback, and also you get 2 extra ones because this does have one on either side. What's also really nice as well is that they put a little flap door at the top here, but that's not the only thing. There's actually 2 USB ports that you could charge other accessories for, which I'm going to use for my SDR transmitter or any other accessories I might have somewhere down the line where I want to use USB-C instead. You also have USB-A as well, and you also have a D-tap 12 and 8 volt as well. I also plan on doing a full review on this battery and some of the other small rig batteries, but in terms of the things that you could plug into this guy and the capacity that it has, this is more than enough for me to power this gigantic rig. Also, if you want to know how I'm powering the camera, I'm just using this Condor Blue dummy battery with a D-tap on the other side as well. So this is going to plug into the Cineback, which has enough voltage to take on a couple of those accessories, and I'm also going to power everything off of this battery in order to have enough power to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And also, there's a bunch of different features from this battery that I'll talk about, like the screen being able to tell you how long of a charge you have on, but I'm going to leave that for another video. Alright, so after shooting a couple of projects with the Sony FX3, with the Cineback, and a bunch of accessories, although they've changed a little bit from the time that I shot into now, what are some of the pros and cons of actually building your camera up like this? Now, I don't know if you haven't noticed, and I don't know if anyone needs to be told, but if you're looking for a small and cheap compact rig for the FX3 in this video, you've kind of come to the wrong place. Camera rigs are meant to solve different problems that you might have on production or on set. Generally speaking, that's going to mean that you're going to have to build the camera up, and it's going to get a little bit heavier because you do need some of those tools in order to solve problems, and that's just going to be par for the course. You might have to go to the gym, or you might have to go and purchase an easy rig, but at the end of the day, the more problems you need to solve, the more things you have to add to your camera package in order to solve some of those problems. Now, some of the pros that I like about the Cineback is the fact that it does have a D-tap splitter on the side. Most cameras don't have the ability to have one D-tap port, let alone having 4. So the ability for me to plug in multiple accessories into this rig is really nice if I want to power it off of a large battery like the VB212. What's also nice is the VB212 also has 2 D-tap slots as well in some other accessories, but we've already gone over that. Power delivery is going to be important for this guy. Another thing that I like is it does have a little tiny secret compartment if you want to put different cables in there. This is nice, as the more accessories I have, the more cables are floating around, and I might have to make a choice to switch from some of these coiled cables, but it's giving you a great way if you don't have enough Mondo ties or it's still a little bit of an awkward build, you can just stuff them in that little back compartment on the back of the Cineback in order for you to hide some of your cables to make a cleaner rig. I also like in the top handle version as well, it does make the camera feel a little bit more sturdy. I've actually broken the FX3 audio handle the first time I got it, and one of the things that really got on my nerves was how much it cost to actually get a new one. Having some of the metal components on the Cineback gives a little bit of sturdiness and fortitude to the FX3. It's a smaller camera, which means it's going to be a little bit more rough and tumble, which also means it's a little bit more susceptible to breaking if something does break down because it's so little and some of the components are a bit more fragile than others. Another thing with the Cineback is the ability to mount on more accessories more than just your regular run-of-the-mill cage. The top and the bottom plates are riddled with 1/4-20 and 5/8 threads, so if I want to mount on other accessories using different 1/4-20 accessories or magic arms or anything else under the sun, I have more than enough space that I can do that on this rig. Oh, also, the last thing, it looks cool. Camera rigs, they look cool. Shocker. Gonna be completely honest. Do you need to have every single accessory that I'm telling you in the Cineback for the FX3? Absolutely not. In fact, a lot of you guys might not need any of these things, or might not need some of them, or you might need others. The idea is that everybody has a custom rig, which is kind of cool because the different things that they shoot and how they set up their camera speaks a lot to their shooting style and the stuff that they like, which is always welcome and a lot of fun to actually see. Most of these rig parts were built up over time. A lot of these things weren't bought overnight, as I got the Cineback back in the wintertime, and I just honestly haven't talked about it since, because I got the Cineback like 6 months ago, and I haven't really gone far with making a video since. At the end of the day, these are just options for you to rig out your camera to solve different problems. You're going to have different brands or different accessories or different lenses that you're going to use, but this is just the way that I like to use it, and you might like it as well. Now, there is like a couple of little cons with the Cineback with the FX3, and one of them is actually more user error, but it's a little bit annoying, and it's this thing. If you check right over here, there should be a screen over there. And all the time when you're putting on the Cineback, you have to remember that you have to get your screen flipped out in order to place it here to protect it. And if you forget how to do that and you build up your whole camera rig, you kind of have to take it all apart and do it all over again. This is something that is not necessarily the fault of the Cineback. I understand putting this on the side to have an operator's monitor, although once I forget it because I'm a clumsy person, well, now we're here. The only other thing is sometimes the access to the on button, the off button, the mode, and the menu are a little bit harder to get to. There is going to be a space on the back of the Cineback in order to put your finger in there, but I also have gigantic hands, so if you have big hands and you're not quite used to handling your camera where you could find where the buttons are with your eyes closed, you might just have to do a little bit more fiddling around. It might take you like half a second, but I could see how that can get on some people's nerves. So that's just a thing that Cineback doesn't necessarily do the best at, but at the same time, the things I give up to have this much rigging and that being easy, I'm willing to make some sacrifices. Oh, also, the last con, and I don't think this has anything to do with the Cineback, but Caleb, do me a favor, have these in stock. I find that these are so popular and people love them so much that once they go on sale, it's almost impossible for you to find one that's going to be in stock, which can get a little bit annoying. Now, that has actually nothing to do with the build of the Cineback, but I don't know, maybe have more minions make them faster so more people can get them, so we all can talk about them together and rig our cameras up to look nice and fancy. That being said, this is the Cineback for the Sony FX3. I've been sitting on this video for quite a long time, but I have been testing out different parts, and overall for the stuff that I like to do when I want to work a little bit more in production, dress my camera up a little bit more with all the bells and whistles, this is probably how I'm going to do it when I want to take everything to the absolute 100 and shoot this like a production style camera, while at the same time having a little tiny compact camera on the inside, just in case I want to make a YouTube video. That being said, all links are in the description down below. The camera battery is dying, and I'm gonna find that spider and kill it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.